Is it working?
Yes, it is.
Okay, welcome everyone to our second recording with Janet Hartman, Executive Director of the Florida Licensure Board for 491, among other things. I don't even know all the boards you. And then Ashleigh Irving, who is one of the experts in that does, I think you do a lot of the verifying and I can't even come up with the word. It's too late in the day. All right. Anyway, you're one of the kahunas that helps with people with their processing. So today we are focused on the end of the process. Our previous one was more the beginning of the process, the getting registered. This is the moving from registered status to full licensure status. So we are happy to have Janet Hartman and Ashleigh Irving, and I'm going to shut up and let you guys do the presentation. But for those of you who are participating, please make liberal use of the chat for your questions, and I will make sure that Janet and Ashleigh see those questions and so that they can answer them.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. As always, it's always a pleasure for Ashleigh and I to be here with you all. We really enjoy having the opportunity to talk with licensees and talk with the associations about issues that are really important. And I'll tell you what, there couldn't be probably a more important issue for us to talk about right now than this one right here. So as we were already introduced, I'm the executive director for the board, and Ashleigh Irving is the program operations administrator. So that what that means is essentially Ashleigh oversees all of the day-to-day operations for 491 and does handle, she is, as you described, the expert as it relates to licensing. But what we're going to talk about a little bit today is the fact that the registered interns who registered 5 years ago or prior to that will be expiring on March 31st, 2022. This is your 1 year notice that we are coming to that place, okay? So in a couple of things, just to give you some background, back on July 1st of 2016, during legislative session that year, the law was changed to set an expiration for only 60 months for a registration process for interns. So once you applied, you had 5 years to finish your supervision, take your exam, apply for your license. And so that period was set in stone. For those who were already registered, it basically stated that you have until March 31st, 2022 to complete your requirements and be prepared to move to full licensure. So that was a few years back. And as I mentioned, we're about 1 year out for that now. A couple of things, oops, hit the wrong button. A couple of things the board has done in the last year since, there was, I guess there was an update last year that's important to reference.
We'll find true.
Ooh, background noise.
We have family therapists with children in the background. Right.
Hey, I've got kids that are almost 15 now, so I miss the sound of that in the background.
Yeah.
Sorry. So anyway, so last year there was some additional legislation that did modify this drop dead date a little bit, which is they stated that if there was an emergency or a hardship case, that the board could issue a one-time extension. But the most important part about that one-time extension is that you must have completed the examination. It did not waive that examination requirement. So I can't emphasize enough that if you've not yet taken your exam, that you contact the office to do that just a little bit more on some of our additional slides. So on May 6th, the board will convene again for their next meeting, and they will be kind of solidifying how that process for the request for hardship or emergency extension will occur. And they did establish some language during a prior meeting, but once we realized seriously the volume of potential applicants who may be applying for this type of consideration, we're asking the board to reconsider how they're going to process this. So that will be discussed again during the meeting on the 6th. And we'll have updates immediately posted on our website related to this. So a couple of things I've already mentioned, the law does require completion of the exam. So it's really important. We pulled this little piece out because it's probably one of the biggest questions we receive. And as such, the board does not have the authority to consider or waive examination requirements. The board can only waive requirements that are in rule. If they are in statute, only the governor or the legislature, really the legislature then signed by the governor, can change those requirements. So this is really important that everyone understands this.
Really, the only thing that they would be able to still do if they got an extension was either their direct clinical hours or finishing up supervision hours. So for instance, for marriage and family therapists, if this during the pandemic, they were struggling to get, say, relational hours, that extension would make sense, but only if they have passed the exam.
Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. That's an excellent way to explain it. So it is important that you begin final preparations. So we have set up a slider on our website to address this very issue. So if you do visit our website, you will note right at the top, it talks about the expiration of interns. You can click on that and all the information is loaded there, easy for you to review and see. But what you need to be doing now is evaluating a couple of things. One, submitting your supervision hours to making sure you're, probably most importantly, making sure you're passing the examination, because that is requiring some, you have to, request that code from the office, schedule that examination. So you really ought to be doing that right now. This is the time to go ahead and ask for that code. And then if you've not already done so, applying for licensure so that you can move into that full license status. So as it relates to clinical experience, Ashleigh, you want to talk about this part a little bit?
Sure. This is our new verification of clinical experience form. I know most of you are probably used to the older form, but everything is pretty much the same. You'll list your qualified supervisor will fill this form out. They will list their license number and your license number. Also, the dates that you began supervision, when supervision ended, and the total number of hours completed with that supervisor. Towards the end of the form, they will tell us if you met the minimum standards of performance and if they will continue to see you as an intern. It's very important to get this signed by your supervisor and into our office as quickly as possible so that we can begin to calculate your hours and know how many hours you'll need for your full licensure application. This form can be found on our website under the resources tab. So if you go to floridasmentalhealthprofessions.gov, click on resources, forms and requests, it should be the first link that you see.
So one of the questions that have come up with not only this new form, but the previous form, is it no longer says that for MFT, have they completed 750 relational hours? I'm assuming that that is encompassed in the rule and statute there, that they have met all the requirements. But there are unfortunately some interns and some supervisors who think that because the form no longer says, does the MFT have 750 hours of relational, that they no longer need it.
Goodness.
Well,
yes.
The only thing that we require was the 180 practicum hours in the marriage and family therapy setting. So that's still required for the practicum. And then for the supervised experience, is the same 1,500 hours in no less than 100 weeks with 100 hours with your qualified supervisor. So that should be the same.
And for marriage and family therapists, they also need that of that 1,500, 50% of it, or 750, has to be relational hours, marriage and family therapy hours.
Right, so that's implied here. So you are correct, that is implied in this form.
It is, but unfortunately, because it used to say it explicitly, it has caused some confusion for some people.
Okay.
Good to know. We'll make a note of that. For sure.
Yes, I had a couple of interns come to me all excited. You mean I don't have to do that? I said, if you want me to sign it, you do.
Yes. Okay, so as already mentioned, we talked about the fact that marriage and family therapy exam applicants must request exam approval. So to do so, that's at mqa.491@flhealth.gov. And once that, that exam approval is issued, once all the coursework is completed and all the practicum hours are complete. So there is additional information. As I mentioned, we did design that new slider so that everything's captured in one location, and you'll find that information there on our website as well. Everything about the exam. So if someone has an application, they've completed their supervision hours, they've completed their examination, this is the location for applying for licensure. So it's really, sometimes we'll guide people to the applications that are found on our website, the PDFs, to kind of fill them out so that they can prepare a document to work from to fill out this electronic file. But we always encourage that everyone apply electronically if possible. It is definitely the faster, particularly now, is the more streamlined way to have your application received and reviewed by our processors. But it is important to note that applications with the department do expire after 1 year. So if someone has applied previously for full licensure, Ashleigh, that means that they're going to have an expired application if it's been more than 365 days.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, so make
May I
sure.
ask- I'm sorry, may I ask one question? Has there been any change in requirements for endorsement?
Yes, so effective July 20, if you are submitting an application by endorsement, we are reviewing your license verification from the state that you currently hold a license, as well as the exam. We're no longer doing course by course review for marriage and family therapy or any profession under 491.
Yeah, because my license is number 297 in the state of Colorado. And at first they were saying something that wasn't valid. Well, it is, and it's, so I don't know. That's why I'm still trying to learn and listen.
Okay, do you currently have an application with us? You can call me after this and we can go over your application.
Would you please? You're with AAMFT, right?
I'm with the Florida board.
But I thought you were also AAMFT.
No.
No?
Janet and Ashleigh work for the state. They work for the licensure, the licensure board of Florida.
So is there AAMFT in Florida?
Yes, and I can talk to you about that after we do this. Yes.
Okay.
And how nice, how lovely of Ashleigh to give us her phone number. That's really sweet for her to do that. I also have another question, real quick. I have a question here on can a person get a previous supervisor to fill out the form to attest to their supervision hours? I'm assuming that the person who provided the supervision is the one that needs to complete the form. So someone can't do it for someone else. It has to be the actual person that provided the supervision. And that's another kind of glitch that I have people who sometimes come to me to finish their hours and tell me that they're struggling to find the previous supervisor to get them to sign the forms, and are struggling to hunt that person down. So I'm not sure what to do with that, except to maybe perhaps look them up on the website. And I don't know, Janet, if a supervisor provided supervision, especially if they took money for it and then disappeared into the woodwork, but they're still listed as licensed in the state, is that something that we could complain to the board about, or is there another tack that they should go?
So I think you and I've talked a little bit about some of the upcoming rulemaking discussions related to supervisors. And so Ashley helped me, but I think that that rule will be discussed again on the May 6th agenda. So there is presently, there is nothing in the laws and rules that relates to supervisor conduct. So yeah, so that is something that we have identified, or the board has identified along with council as a, you know, as a problem there. And that was really identified as we continued to have registered interns who came before the board for disciplinary issues or something, and they would say, but gosh, my supervisor said A, B, C. And so that was really one of those things where the board continued to say, I would really love to be able to have that supervisor come and you know, have to speak on that you know, on that matter, or stand for something that was identified, like what you're talking about, providing these services and then failure to follow through with those kind of things. So it's certainly something the board is interested in looking at, ensuring that supervisors do fulfill their obligations that they've contracted. So stay tuned on that.
Yes, yes. And I don't know if those rules will be retroactive to people who have already finished. That you're saying they would not. So they might have to complain. They might have to file a complaint to get some action on that. So I'm getting several different questions here about the old confirmation form. It will be accepted. That's great to know. But the new form is currently available, or it will be available?
It's currently available.
Currently available. Okay. So I'll turn all my previous copies into scratch paper and print off a couple of the new ones. That's great.
And the lovely part about it is PDF fillable.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
All righty. Now, Michelle has a question here, so we'll quickly go over it. If you're currently not under supervision, or you need to change supervisors, you have to send in, the supervisor has to send in a letter indicating that they are accepting you on their roster of interns. And you have to get back an email from Ashleigh and Company saying that's all been approved, because that supervisor has to be vetted to make sure that they are qualified to do all of that. And then once you get that letter, then you can start to collect supervision. And I think you're allowed to have up to 2 at any one time. Is that not correct, Janet? Up to 2 supervisors at any one time?
You know, Ashley, is that?
You can, the law and rule, neither one specify the number of supervisors you have at one time. Now, supervisors can only have 25 interns at one time, but there's no to the number of supervisors that an intern can have.
There you go. Interesting.
You threw me for a loop on that question. That one's not one I've not heard before.
Yeah, I think at least at one time I remember seeing that in the laws and rules, probably the rule. But anyway, so yeah, but the idea is that you have to wait to get the formal approval before you can start to count hours. And you definitely want to do that, because it would be horrible to have not done that and then paid all this money or spent all this time and none of that count because you failed to go through that procedure. So yeah. Now Rita's asking, where do we submit that forms? So if someone were to go through that portal, right, I'm assuming there's a place that they can upload forms, they can upload their CEU certificates for the pre-licensure. All of that stuff can be done electronically. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. So if you are a Florida intern, you have the ability to upload the documents to the online portal. You can also fax them to us, mail them, or email them directly to us.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of ways to get the form to us. At the top of the form is where you will find the information on where to send it. see that information. I saw that question in the chat. The very top of the form has the email listed, the address, and the fax number. You can send it to either one of those places, or you can always upload it to your file.
Okay. Okay. Now we have a question here regarding about the pre-licensure CEs, the HIV/AIDS course and things of that nature. And so if someone has taken a course of that type, where would they go to get verified that that course was acceptable?
CEbroker.com. That is where you will want to go. CE Broker is the department's tracking system for continuing education across the board. So if you're looking for an approved provider, you'll want to go there. And then we also have a list of board rule approved providers on the website. So you can see that list there, but it's easiest to go to CE Broker and probably just do a search for anything that you're looking for.
So if somebody took, for instance, an HIV/AIDS course, and they either didn't get a certificate or they maybe got a certificate, but it was not from a Florida provider, and they're not yet licensed because CE Broker doesn't pull up. We don't upload to CE Broker for pre-licensed people. Where would they still go to CE Broker to get that other workshop to be counted, or how? Do you know?
Well, first, the other workshop wouldn't be counted because it's not Florida approved.
So it has to be a Florida provider. So if they don't have that BAP number, that BAP number, then it's then they have to retake it. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So that makes that clear. All right.
And even though they're not fully licensed yet, you should be able to start a transcript on CE Broker. I can't imagine why they wouldn't be able to start a transcript of courses that they've already taken on CE Broker to keep track of their work.
I will ask one of my interns to give that a whirl. I know as a provider, there's no place for me to enter when I do the pre-licensure workshops. There's no place for me to enter it into, but I suppose a registered intern could self enter it with a certificate. So, okay. So I have another question, and this is the sticky one. If they get to March 2022 and they have yet to pass the exam, they're trying, they've taken it, but they didn't get it passed, do we know what happens? Or is that to be yet discussed?
Their license expires on that date.
Okay. And we don't yet know what would happen next, if they could re-register or just what would happen next.
The law contemplates the board being able to offer one extension.
But that's with the exam passed.
Right. So what I'm saying is it basically says it expires on this date, and the only provision for a hardship or emergency extension is related to having passed the exam and being awarded by the board. So the law does not appear to contemplate re-registration. It offers one pathway for extending the license on one occasion. So
okay, wow. All right.
Very, very important
to pass that exam before March 22nd. And in fact, really, Ashleigh, if they take it in March, and they don't know until April because there's that lag time between taking it and passing. Does that, if they've taken it in March, can they still apply with an April notification, or should they take it by February so they know they've passed in March?
We want to encourage everyone to take it as soon as possible. Certainly, they will be submitting a new application with new requirements. So if that new application, which would be the full license application, requires that they have the exam experience and the CEs, if they have all of that, we are certainly going to accept it.
Okay. Okay. All right. But take it by February at the latest so that you don't have this stickiness. Got it. Got it. All right.
I'll tell you, we are absolutely encouraging everyone to ask for that code and register as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And that will give them opportunity if for some reason they take it, they take it and they have difficulty, that they have a time frame to retake that exam. So now is the time to do as much of this as you can.
Mhm.
If you've met the hours, if you've got everything in order, let's go ahead sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
There
Absolutely.
are thousands of people who are in similar circumstances. And I often, as I've told you before, Dr. Schooley, we have 8 processors for 48,000 existing licensees. And so we work very hard, and my team is absolutely extraordinary. But if you wait till the last minute, it does make it very, very difficult to meet these guidelines. And when it says expires on that date, the system will expire the license on that date.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
It is just, I cannot overemphasize the importance of taking action today, like now,
Mhm.
versus waiting.
Now, Lasagna has a question about taking CEUs like HIV. And again, I don't think the board cares if it came out of nursing or came out of psychology or whatever, as long as they have that about HIV, particularly like HIV or prevention of medical errors, some of those things. As long as there's a Florida provider, that's probably okay for those required ones, ethics and boundaries. Well, see, the ones that are required for pre-license is HIV, domestic violence, and the laws and rules. So those are the only 3 that are pre-license requirements. All those others are post-license requirements, and that's a whole other discussion that we're not doing now. All right. Okay. So Coach
Okay.
Debbie, in anything talking about the changing of the
Hold on,
law,
Dr.
that's something else. Yes.
I wanted to stop you there. I'm just a little bit apprehensive about blanket saying that all of those are going to be okay.
Right.
Because some of those are very specific to the profession.
Mm.
So when you talk about ethics and those kind of things, that's going to be more specific to this. And you have to understand that the board does actually approve all of the CE providers and the coursework that's associated. So it's really important that, I mean, if she's already taken the course, go into the system, go into CE Broker, click at the top where it says which profession. And then when you click on that, it's only going to give you a list of those providers who are approved by this board. And if that CE that's already been taken on a nursing board or somewhere else falls within that category, then you'll be, that would be fine. But again, I would caution, taking other courses outside of going to CE Broker. And there are free courses on there. There are low-cost courses on there. This is not a portal where the department, this is not the department telling you who to take or what to do. This is simply an online portal where you can go and make sure that you're taking the courses that the board has approved. So I would just caution you about taking courses from other boards. Yes, they may fit on some cases, HIV may fit, but we want to make sure that you're taking a board approved class so that we don't have to give you bad news later.
Yeah. And like you said, there's a lot, particularly for the pre-licensure ones, domestic violence and HIV, there's a lot of very, very low cost options, very low cost.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some
So that's good. And even free. Okay. Let's see. We have a question of, so when someone takes the exam, the scores are sent to the board. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
it takes about what, 4 to 6 weeks for the exam scores to be received. Yes.
Great. And so so if someone has passed the exam, say in another state, then they have to have the board of that state send the exam, or the test company, or how does that happen?
Either or, they can have the state board to send the exam score, or they can have the test vendor to send it.
Okay, either will work. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
If you log on to the test vendor's website, typically there's a place to request for the score to be sent to the board office. So.
All righty. We have some interesting questions from Coach Debbie about changing law and consideration of racial equity policy. Coach Debbie, could you unmute and maybe explain your question a little bit more?
Sure. Hi, Dr. Scooby. How are you?
I'm okay.
Thank you for leading this and doing this. Thank you, Janet, for being here. And thank you, Ashleigh, as well. You've been so helpful, even answering a few questions from my external practicum and supervision practicum. And in terms of the racial equity question, AAMFT, as well as many different organizations across the nation, are recognizing how the American population is growing so diverse, but we're not having enough clinical practitioners representative of those different races to support in mental health counseling, marriage and family therapy, et cetera.
Yes.
So my question was, with the licensing board, what is their role or view in ensuring racial equity for the amount of practitioners who actually apply for licensure and then actually successfully get licensed? And I ask that because when you think of standardized tests, it has been proven over time how they are biased and not conducive of either performance or ability across the board, regardless of race. So just wondering what can be done to make sure we have a robust workforce to meet the need of the populations we serve.
I certainly appreciate the question. Excellent question. So, and presently, Florida statute does require an examination for all three of our professions. So the first step to kind of, I think, achieve the goal that you're talking about is, addressing that with your local representation, your local legislator, as it relates to the exam protocols. I do know that the three associations or the three test vendors who, administer these national examinations are all taking a closer look at how their examinations are comprised, how the psychometrics and the way that the tests are being reviewed. And I know that that is an active and ongoing process with the administration, at that level. What I can tell you is at this time in the state, we're limited to just regulating based on the laws and rules that are provided to us by the Florida legislature. So at this time, the board will be required to continue to evaluate a pass or fail score on an examination to determine licensure. So I hope that helps answer the question. But that is what I think the next steps would be, is looking more at a legislative level for, a change to any possible change to the examination requirement.
And that would also be true for the other question regarding what happens to people who don't meet the March 22 deadline or their 5-year deadline, whatever it is for them. And so what happens next? Is there any next step for them? That too would be something that would be done at the legislative level and is outside of the board's authority. Is that not correct?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. So Ashleigh and I, in our role, we have a very definitive set of Florida statutes, and it gives us that direction on yes or no. So I will tell you that any eligible applicant who applies for licensure in the state of Florida, who's passed the examination, completed supervision, and met all the requirements, they are licensed without question, without any further consideration. So yes, the best thing that I can offer to that is to talk with your legislators about this issue. It certainly has been one that is definitely being discussed. As recent as my visit with the National Association for Mental Health Counseling just 2 weeks ago, they also, the NBCC has dedicated to looking at the test composition, making sure that they're addressing these issues. So I can tell you it is a conversation that is being had But I always encourage folks who bring these type of matters to our attention. I direct you back to your legislators. They are listening, and they are, when those questions are asked, they, refer back to us, ask us for feedback on what the law requires. And so they are listening. So I encourage you to seek that route.
Yes. I also want to just make very clear that at the present time, the exam that is being used by the licensure board is the one from AMFTRB, that is the national exam, and it is used by 49 states and District of Columbia. The only state that doesn't use it is California. They have their own test, and they periodically flirt with the idea of switching over to the national exam. But there is only one exam that currently even exists, other than the California one. So if there is going to be a change, it would be at the level of the AMFTRB that bosses that particular exam, and that would. What's challenging about that is that they are not government. They're not elected people to that. That would be like trying to take on the SAT people or the GRE people or something like that. But it's good to hear that in your conversations, they are aware that their exams might have some bias built into it. In fact, it's inevitable that it has bias built into it. Yeah, so that is a problem. Let's see. I think we've covered everything that that you can speak to, but it does sound like there's some legislative things that I need to be talking about with people, and that may in fact come up more and more. But the big word is, if you haven't passed the exam, do it before the end of the year. Make that happen. Yes. And there are so many options out there for study groups and study materials, from the very expensive to the free. So if you are not getting help from your site supervisor, your supervisor, your approved supervisor, talk with them immediately about helping you to prepare and take that exam. And that is that really the Ashleigh and Janet's hands are 100% tied around that. There is no wiggle room on that. So it's got to be passed in order to get licensed. And what happens after that has to be done at a legislative level. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other things in chat. Any other questions that anybody has?
I actually have a question, if you don't mind.
Please.
We are looking at, my friend Jody's here too. So we took the exam last year, we both passed, and our profile, we are just checking it now. It has no information. When I look at the exam results, it says no information, and also doesn't give me an option to upload any document. And I understand that you said that we can upload them, and I wanted to upload my certificates to see if they match the requirements, but there's no option for that. This is why I got a little worried. So can you calm me down?
Sure. So don't get worried. Don't panic. That you see about the exam is across the board for all 22 professions. Our board in particular, we do not upload the exam scores there. So that is a question that we do receive often. We just notated in your file whether or not we have received the exam scores. We're working with IT to see if we can begin to upload those scores there. So you have the passing score. You can always verify with us by sending us an email and asking if we have the scores or not. Now, you should be able to upload the documents. I would have to look at the specific directions on how to get to the upload portal there, but I'm gonna look and see and hopefully get back to you on that one.
Right. I'm fine with sending them to you, but as I sent the information, on the contact sheet on the site, and he went away to somewhere, and I got an answer that I will forward it to the person in charge, and I haven't heard back now almost 2 weeks. I just don't want it to be lost. I think that's my only concern, that if I can upload it, I'm happy to do it. Just let me know how.
Okay.
Good. Thank you for that.
Thank
Now, Priscilla, did you take the MFT exam or the mental health exam? There's a difference here. For mental health, you can apply directly to take the exam. You don't need a code to do that. You can do it directly. But for marriage and family therapy, you do have to receive a code that then you enter in order to schedule the exam. And they would not have scheduled you for the exam if you did not have that code.
I'm MFT. So yeah, I mean, I received the code when I became a registered intern. So is that what you mean by approval?
That is your approval. Yes.
Okay.
If you had the code, that means you were approved to take the exam. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something I had to like document online.
No, the code is that you're good. I
Okay.
understand everybody is that the panic level is growing as the time is running out. But that is that if you got the code, then and congratulations on taking the exam. Good for you. You took it 2 weeks ago, so hopefully you'll get a response in about 2 weeks. To know what you did. And at least now you get it by email. It used to be you had to wait for snail mail to arrive, and we all know what the postal service is like these days. But yeah, so you'll get an email that tells you when that you have passed it. We're going to claim that for you, that you've passed it. So but that will automatically go to Ashleigh and Company, and so you'll see that information. So that's great. Yeah, excellent. Okay.
Can I have another question, please?
Of course.
I know most people, I don't know actually, but you're talking about running out of time. We're anxious to running into the time, I guess, because I understand that we have to have no less than 100 weeks completed. So if I receive my registered intern number on August 15th, does it mean that I can apply for license on July 15th-ish? Because that's when the 100
It'd actually be more like the end of July. They literally count 100 weeks. So you would, well, whatever it is, I guess that's -4, right? So
right.
Yeah, exactly.
2 years,
Yep.
one month
Yep.
short of 2 years.
Exactly. And what I always do with my registered interns is I say, here's the documentation, fill it out, but we will continue to meet for supervision until you actually get back the official email that says that you are officially licensed. So supervision has to continue until you have license in hand.
What if you're not seeing any?
Okay, even if we don't see clients, right?
Even if you don't see clients. Yep.
Now, is this another form that has to be filled out, or is just the profile that we have on the board's site?
The supervision form, remember the form that Ashleigh showed us?
No, I'm asking about the applying for the license itself, like within the.
Do you remember the portal that Janet had up, that you make an account and you apply that way? Yes, that's the portal that you apply through.
Okay, that's already set up. That's
No. One is a registered intern, the other one is a license for marriage and family.
Oh,
therapy.
okay.
There's two
Okay,
different
sorry.
things.
Okay. Thank you.
Ashleigh, it's not the same account. If they upload, it is not the same account. So they have to remake an account.
New application.
That is
It's a new
why
application. Okay, got it.
Gotcha. So they have to start that whole process of creating the account and a password and all that, and then upload
that's
information.
correct. And so we do have access to all of the documents in your intern file. I don't see the instructions on how to upload the documents to your intern file that you were asking about earlier. It looks like you may need to start the application in order to be able to upload documents to the system.
Mm-hmm.
And
Excellent.
I have those
And
instructions.
you don't have a time limit for that, so I can start the process now.
Yeah, so the moment we receive the fee is when we receive your application, right? So we receive the application and the fee, then we're counting 1 year from that time.
Right. So they're saying that you have 1 year to upload all the materials.
That's correct.
Right. But what I encourage people to do is to have all the materials and do it all at one time, so that it's all there all at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Yeah, that's what I encourage people to do. Yeah, rather than, you know, oh, let me show my supervision stuff and now let me put in my fee, and oh, I haven't taken the laws and rules yet, let me do that. I'm like, do it all, send it all at one go, so that when the processor looks at it, they can just check everything off. Done.
Right.
Yeah.
So this might be the confusion, because I was looking at a registered intern form and not the license application. So there are two separate ones. Okay.
Two
I
separate
got it.
forms. Yes. Yes. Very good.
And Dr. Scholar, we greatly appreciate you encouraging that. So if our processor receives a complete file, everything's there, and they're able to just go right down the list and check, check, check. And, you know, and there's nothing that has to go before the board for approval. That is a quick issue license. That's
Yeah.
a quick button to click.
That's the fast turnaround.
It is the fast turnaround. If there is anything missing, then our processors are required to send you a letter with a deficiency notice, and then you know, you receive that letter and you respond back, and then we take each item as it comes in on that email or upload it. Yes, you're exactly right, drawing it out there, because again, I mentioned we have 8 processors and thousands of applicants at any given time. So if your application arrives in a nice little package, complete and ready to go, that processor looks at it one time, processes it, issues a license. If they have to wait, then every time you send in a new document, you go to the bottom of that list, and we take it in date order. So every time you do that, you initiate a new document, introduce something new to it, you're stretching that out. So thank you for sharing that good news.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. I was sending things in, and this is the old days of all hard copy had to be mailed in, and I had transcripts go in, and I had 2 different processors, one for mental health, one for marriage and family. Unfortunately, both transcripts went to one file, and so the half of it was in it. So I learned, put it all in one envelope or all in one upload, and get it sent up. So yeah. All right. So just to do a quick review, the requirements for licensure have not changed. It's the same 100 hours of supervision, the same 100 weeks, the same 1,500 hours of practice, and the same exam for whatever it is that your license is. So those have all changed. That the oldest, anybody who was registered on or before 2017, all have a deadline of March of 2022, and that is a drop dead deadline.
It is.
With one caveat, but that caveat is you have to have passed the exam. And since all of the interns I know that are in this situation have not passed the exam, that's the thing that has to happen. So that'll, and at this point, there is, if you haven't passed the exam as of March 2022, there is no second life as of right now that we know of.
That is correct.
Yeah. Supervision requirements is that 100 hours, up to 50 of that can be in group. And right now, 100% of it can be virtual. And that is true all the way into 2026, according to the new rule, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now we've got somebody here who's remembering the old rules, the 1 to 15. So we no longer say that if you did that, you have to have an hour for every 15. It mathematically ends up that way. But if you did 20 hours in a week, that doesn't mean you have to have 2 hours of supervision for that week. It's just that at the end of the 100 weeks, you know, that race runs, that all the 1,500 and the 100 hours of supervision all have to kind of end together. I mean, you can do more hours, you can do more supervision. You can always do more. You just can't do less than that. All right. Will there be another call about becoming a registered intern? So Lasagna, there is on the Florida Interest Network YouTube channel is a 90-minute meeting with Janet and Ashleigh that talks about getting registered. So I refer you to that. And if upon looking at that, you don't get what you answered, then please do talk to Janet and Ashleigh via these email addresses that you see on the screen. But it was very comprehensive. And there is this fabulous PDF document that Janet and company has put together. I bet, Ashley, you put a lot of that together, that just walks everything through. Everything you want to know about getting registered and, for that matter, getting licensed is in that document. So that'd be the place to go. Yes, a copy of this recording is going to be available on the Florida Interest Network YouTube channel as soon as possible. And I think that's all the questions that we have. We went longer than we thought, but Ashley and Janet, thank you so much for your time. You know, we want to send you off to have your dinner. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully everybody will get done. Did you say, do we know how many that are outstanding, Janet, that are hanging out there that'll expire March 22?
Yes, we do. And when I actually don't have the number in front of me for marriage and family therapy specifically, but I do have that information available. I can certainly share that with you. I think I said that to you in email, but overall it's 12,000 registered interns across all three professions.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah.
And a lot of those are individuals who have been registered interns for more than 6 years.
More than 6 years. Yep. Yep. I believe you even had stats.
Population.
You had stats on people that have been registered for 20 plus years. And
certainly did.
This is the cleanup time. This is the whole point, is to clean that all up, get these people either sorted and licensed or not. And not have people just kind of hanging out there. God only knows if they're under supervision. They're certainly not probably doing any CEUs, any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're trying to make this a much cleaner, clear process. You get licensed in 5 years. And really, I don't know if the rest of the people listening know this, but there are other states that have this. Florida is not the only state that has this kind of 5-year limit. And some states have a 5-year limit and 200 hours of supervision. So, be grateful at this point that Florida is the way it is. So, alrighty then. Oh gosh, we have lots of chat, but I think those are all thank yous. So yes, we don't want to lose the 1,200 providers. You're absolutely right, Coach Debbie. Alrighty. So you all take care. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording, but I'm going to stay on for any other kind of questions that are kind of outside the realm of what we're here to talk about.
Fantastic. As always, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and share information with you all. That's our mission. That's why we're here. We're happy to help. So
we'll have to think of something next year. We'll just have to do this every year. We'll have to. I'm sure there will be something next year.
We'll just come to visit every now and then. And
I would love it. Wait, next time I'll bake a cake. All right. We'll have that. All right. Thank you, Ashley, so much for all your time and effort and being willing to answer these questions. And thank you, everyone who participated.